G'day there guys, and welcome to some more stories from Reddit. My name is Connor and thanks for joining me today. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Am I the a-hole? Husband accused me of financial infidelity. Husband, 33 male, and I, 33 female, have been married for 10 years, together since college. Since starting out, we've made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200k each. Student loans were paid off within a few years, both went to state schools with some scholarships, so didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and don't have any credit card debt. We max out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint account for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fund money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fund money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fund money accounts, unless the funds are needed for a larger expense, such as a major home repair. In terms of the fund money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am due to expensive hobbies. In particular, golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine, it's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive, running and working out, reading and baking. In general, I'm more introverted, and a great time for me is tea with a friend at one of our homes, with homemade pastries. I have also been getting back into gaming lately, after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fund money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband is furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5k. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fund money and not our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He is demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds to our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fund money accounts can't accumulate more than $2,000 and that any excess goes back to the joint account, a rule that would obviously favour him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I'm being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much my husband has in his fund money account or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchase. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. So, am I the a-hole? Misc info. Husband and I each have our own office and hobby room in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home, unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40 to 50 miles a week, so it's not like I'm generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or having a nice gaming setup in my own space in the house. What the heck? So you make over $200k a year, and yet your husband gets mad at you for spending $5? Something tells me this isn't simply a money issue, you know? Anyway, let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. He sounds super controlling and greedy. My wife and I manage our finances in a similar way. She spends her money on whatever she wants and I blow mine on outdoor stuff and video games. We have joint checking and savings for household expenses, kids, vacations, etc. I'd sit him down and tell him how he chooses to spend his own money is his business, and how you spend yours is your business. He agreed to this arrangement, and doesn't get to change the rules because he chooses to manage his money differently than you, and you aren't going to return anything because he's acting like a spoiled man-child who didn't get a new toy when you did. Not the a-hole. This isn't a money issue, it's a control issue. Seems like you've spooked him by showing you can quietly amass funds out of sight. You are making a good income and have few expenses, so 5k should not be that big a deal regardless of the circumstance. The only reason it is because your spouse thinks he should have a say in your spending. Read freedom. I'm not saying this is abusive behaviour, it could be something else, but this is a thing abusers do. Better to nip it in the bud. Do not agree to the new 2k limit. Push back. OP comments. I actually had and have a lot more than 5k saved. We have had this arrangement for a few years and I typically only spend about $500 of my allotted $1,500 a month. Maybe a bit more some months if I need to replace my running shoes, buy other clothes, or have any outings with friends planned like concerts, but in that range. Someone asks, "Girl, what does he actually contribute to your household?" OP replies, "Although our incomes are about equal, I work shorter hours at home, with occasional in-office days or business travel, and he works long hours in the office, plus an hour of commuting time each way. Perhaps because I'm home all the time, having a very tidy home and fresh cooked meals is a priority for me. I primarily do those things for me and not for him, even though he benefits as well. I'd still have to cook and clean if I were living in the house by myself, unless I wanted to hire someone to do those things, but I don't, as I genuinely enjoy cooking and housework. We do have breakfast together most days, unless he has to leave early, dinner together most days, and weekend and date activity time in addition to pursuing our own hobbies. He's smart, hilarious, and a delightful companion, at least other than this latest issue. I realise I haven't emphasised the positive in this thread, because I've been pretty ticked, but other than this, he's been a great partner and husband." People are confused on how much money they have, so OP elaborates. "Together we have a joint cash savings of 250k, plus retirement savings approaching the 7-figure mark. Could he be hiding a debt and gambling addiction?" OP replies, "I manage all our bank accounts and check them daily and also handle all the bill pay. Nothing suspicious so far. He admits he's not great with money and would spend more without a budget." Okay, now for an update. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money, but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while, for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech and software dev. He's currently in an executive training program, and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment, while I get to work primarily at home doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that over time these resentments are going to build, and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career, and I don't. He remarked that, since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I've been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I've been fixing simpler meals, things like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He has also noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placemats, etc. Honestly, I didn't realise he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages, so overall, he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight or body, I'm a long-distance runner and slim, but in terms of things like clothes, hair, etc. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things. Given that I work at home in tech, the standard for appearances is extremely low and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot more for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that because of all these things, he's starting to notice other women. Says he hasn't cheated, but he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-orientated Type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all this because he knows I'm a good person and that he's being judgmental, that it is not so much I've changed as that his own goals and expectations have changed in the past couple of years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing in myself and our relationship, thus cheating on our future in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag this all out of him. That he doesn't want us to drift apart further, that he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he's asking for a lot. I know that many on this sub might say I should tell him to take a hike and call my lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot into the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So a couple of things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counsellor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance and we're already financially very comfortable, but I can at least try doing the other things, return to spending more time on cooking and decor and fix myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work, now that I know that they're important to him. I also know that in the end, I may feel like I'm just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two and then see how we both feel. And I know I would always regret it if I didn't try. So, maybe not the update that you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are. And if folks continue to be interested, I can update further once we've started marriage counselling and once I can feel out how the changes are going. Edit. I need to call it a night, but once again thank you for everyone to your responses. They were really eye-opening and helped me see that I do deserve better than the way I'm being treated, and that the expectations my husband is laying out for me are unfair and unrealistic, especially as he isn't doing anything at all to make it easier for me to meet them or to show me he appreciates my efforts and everything I do bring to the table. I am indeed conditioned to be very people-pleasing, and that is impacting what I think is reasonable here. I have a lot to think about, such as, what do I really want here? What is going to make me happy, especially if I have to keep making myself smaller, metaphorically speaking, and contorting myself to please my husband? Do I really want to be in a marriage under those conditions? I think I'm really selling myself short if I just agree to most of what he demands. Still going to go to the marriage counselling appointment, but I think I'll wait to make any other changes until we can at least get some professional input. Now for some more comments from OP, explaining what she'll do to try and save the marriage. The things I'm willing to do at the moment won't take very much in terms of time, and if they genuinely make him feel more appreciated and cared for, they will absolutely be worth it. I want to show my husband that I'm hearing him and taking his concerns and feelings seriously enough to at least try to make an effort in what he asked. If it doesn't work, it doesn't, and we can still separate a couple or a few months down the road, but I would definitely regret not even trying. More in depth of their relationship and what she does, and what he feels. To answer your question, yes, we each currently make about $200,000, so $400,000 between the two of us, and yes, his concern is that he's going to get promoted to a much higher salary executive position. He's currently being mentored and trained for such a position, which will pay $500,000 plus, and is due to be promoted in the next couple of years if all goes well with the mentoring program. And I'll fall behind in earnings. Granted, we don't need the money for anything as we don't have debt of any kind, don't have and aren't planning on having kids, and already have close to $1 million in retirement savings with 30 plus years left to work, but he's feeling like I'm going to be somehow riding his coattails, taking advantage of him, coasting while he just works harder and harder with longer and longer hours? All of the above, I suppose. In terms of meals, yes, I do all the prep, cooking, table setting, and cleanup. I do actually really enjoy it, and part of it is self-care for me, not just taking care of him. After all, I get to eat the food too, and as I work at home, I usually make enough that I can have food for lunch the next day too. I know this doesn't seem fair, and that others probably think he should contribute more, but it really doesn't bother me at all, as long as he does enjoy and appreciate it. In terms of work, I'm usually done by 5 or 6 p.m, and these days he doesn't get home until about 9 p.m, so I wouldn't have to wear makeup and dressy clothes for work. I could just quickly change and fix my hair and makeup when he's on his way home. I don't think the clothes necessarily need to be designer. I can buy blouses and skirts and dresses at Target just as well as t-shirts and yoga pants, or shop thrift stores or department store sales. I do agree that the women he is comparing me to probably don't wear fancy clothes and makeup at home. He's just seeing them in professional settings that require formal business dress. Anyway, I appreciate you saying I haven't done anything wrong here. Someone in the comments says, "There is a difference between a preference and a boundary." Opie replies, "It's true that he did use the word boundary in our conversation where he revealed his unhappiness with me, as in, I've realised it's a boundary for me to be able to come home to a nicely dressed wife who has prepared a thoughtful meal. And yes, I do realise that completely misuses the word boundary." Okay, now for the final update. So, the more I think about it, the more his requests, demands really, were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands. Not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving and that I was playing a losing game. So, Saturday morning, I went to the salon for a glow-up, haircut, fresh highlights, mani, pedi, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner, steakhouse style. Lobster bisque, bread basket with several types of rolls and savoury muffins made from scratch, crab stuffed mushrooms, filet mignon, au gratin potatoes, white chocolate mousse topped with raspberries. I wore a lavender, his favourite colour on me, sheath dress, and high heels, and fully done hair and makeup. For all that, I got a lukewarm, "Thanks, it was tasty," and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all the serving and clean-up. Sunday we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home. So I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with a banana foster topping, eggs scrambled with parmesan and fresh herbs from our garden, roasted fingerling potatoes, and maple glazed bacon. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, wedge sandals, again did my hair and makeup. Again, I got a "Thanks, it's good," and no help with serving or clean-up. Afterwards, I asked if this was what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb that he was being so hard on me because he had realised lately I had a lot to make up for due to my being a low-value woman. I asked what on earth he meant by that, and he said it was because I wasn't a virgin when we met. What? Keep in mind, we started dating at 21. Neither of us claimed to be virgins or stated that as an expectation. Except for very religious people, neither of us are. I don't think most 21-year-old college students are virgins. I was upfront with him then that I'd had 2 previous partners. My high school boyfriend, we went our separate ways when we went to different colleges in different parts of the country, and another boyfriend I'd had my first year of college. And that's it. Both committed relationships, and nothing casual. He then went on to say that because of my low value, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life, that I didn't deserve monogamy or equal treatment, and that I was lucky that anyone at all wanted to marry me, and that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I'd better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me, or even liked or respected me, told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people here insisted he was having an affair, and I just didn't want to see it, that his complaints were really all part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for just thinking he was going through a stressful time at work, or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I've taken the week off from work to get my head together, have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow, cancelled the marriage counselling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He, and the girlfriend apparently, are coming this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. Also, please be assured I do not think I am low value in any way. I let my husband make me think less of myself on some levels for a short time, but now I truly see it was a him problem. Obviously we don't share the same goals and values, and he has become someone I don't recognise. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before I wasted too much time in a marriage that was already over. Wow, what a pig. I thought this comment sums it up pretty well. Wait, they're in their early 30s, have close to $1 million saved for retirement, plus another $250K, no debt, and she enjoys her job while also making quite a healthy salary? He's worried she won't pull her financial weight? What on earth? How many yachts does this bozo need to water ski behind? Honey, you seem comfortable and happy. That makes me angry and I might end up cheating if you don't abandon all that comfort to do whatever I want you to do, because my comfort and happiness are all that really matter. Yeah, the mental gymnastics and the reasoning behind this idiot's decisions are just completely delusional. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know down below. Am I the a-hole because I don't want to take my stepson on vacation? My husband, 39, and I have been married for 5 years. We have 2 children of our own, both girls aged 5 and 2. I also have a son, 10, from a previous marriage, but I was widowed. My husband's ex is barely involved in stepson's life at all. They got divorced when stepson was 2, and his ex wanted a fresh start, so my husband did the decent selfless thing and had complete custody of their son, even though he'd wanted shared custody. I got a bonus at work, and I really want to go on vacation with just my family, just once. We've been on family vacations all together lots of times, but just once I want to spend my money going on vacation where I'm not looking after someone else's kid. I want stepson to stay with his mum while we go on vacation. My husband sees my point of view and is okay with it. I don't think I'm being at all unreasonable. My mum found out what I was planning and says I'm being a complete a-hole. These are the reasons she says I could be the a-hole. 1. My mum says that if stepson's mum isn't properly involved in his life, I should be even more involved in his life to compensate. I think this is a completely unfair expectation. And 2. She also says that I'm being a hypocrite taking my son, but I think that's totally different because my son doesn't have another parent. I'm all he's got. If stepson's mum won't take him for just once, then obviously he'll come on vacation with us, but I don't think I'm the a-hole to ask if I can have a vacation with my own family just one time. It's not like I hate stepson or something. He's a nice kid. He's just not mine. Am I the a-hole? Geez, the kid's your stepson. That makes him family. I'm not sure what this lady's on about. Let's look at the comments. Your husband's son is your family, and you better not ever let that kid hear you say otherwise. Jesus Christ. Quote, I'm not looking after someone else's kid. Homie, that ship frickin' sailed when you married a man with a child. Wanting a vacation with your family is fine. Deciding that your stepson doesn't count as family is effed up beyond belief and definitely makes you an a-hole. You're the a-hole. I couldn't have said it any better myself. The audacity of this woman is honestly astonishing. I've been with my boyfriend for about 2.5 years, and I literally could never even dream of trying to tell him that I didn't want one of his 3 children to come with us on vacation. His oldest, 16 male, isn't even biologically his, and he still takes him whenever he picks up his biological children from their mother's house. We would never, ever exclude him from any family fun trip we were taking. OP, you're definitely a huge jerk in this situation, and it's weird that your own mother was the one to tell you this and not your husband. When you married your husband, his son became your stepson, just like your son became his stepson. How would you feel if he wanted to exclude your son? You said yourself that your stepson's mother isn't a very attentive mother, and maybe that's not the same thing as having a deceased parent, but frick lady, have some goddamn empathy. You're the a-hole. Like, you're one of the biggest a-holes I've ever seen on this sub, and that's really saying something. You shouldn't be allowed to be a parent. My heart is absolutely shattered for that poor little boy. I don't know what's broken in your brain or soul, but there's something deeply, pathologically wrong with you. That little boy is your family, and it's staggeringly awful that you keep repeating over and over that he isn't. You and his father are the only meaningful, involved parental figures that he has. He is your family, and I have no words to describe how appalling it is that you would keep insisting that he isn't. Quote, I want to spend my money going on vacation where I'm not looking after someone else's kid. You mean your husband's kid? The child who doesn't have another mother figure in his life in any meaningful way other than you? Is this honestly how you see this child, who has been living with you full-time, 24/7, 365 for the last half-decade? Quote, my husband sees my point of view and is okay with it. Well, then your husband is also an a-hole. Quote, I don't think I'm being at all unreasonable. You're wrong. You're objectively wrong, from every possible angle, through every possible lens except a flat-out sociopathic sadistic one. You're wrong. You're literally trying to argue that a little boy who has no other family than you should be excluded from your family vacation because you didn't choose or give birth to him and you don't want him. It's not reasonable, it's freaking monstrous. Quote, my mum says that if Stepson's mum isn't properly involved in his life, I should be even more involved in his life to compensate. I think this is a completely unfair expectation. Of course you think it's unfair. His mother literally abandoned him, and you don't want him either. Your mother is a kind, empathetic person who very reasonably thinks that when you marry someone with a child, and that child has no involved mother figure in their life, and you literally have children of your own, and ostensibly are capable of maternal feelings and behaviour, that the logical thing would be to bring him into the fold, so to speak, and treat him as your own. You see a child whose own mother didn't want him, you get into a relationship with his father, not only his parent but his own family, and see an excuse to separate him further from that one stable figure. Yeah, she's definitely the one who's got the skewed POV. Quote, she also says that I'm being a hypocrite taking my son, but I think that's totally different, because my son doesn't have another parent. I'm all he's got. As your mother rightly pointed out, your stepson doesn't have anyone except you and your husband either. His mother abandoned him. For all intents and purposes, she is not his parent and hasn't been in years. She gave up all custodial rights. That doesn't change because you don't want him either. Any more than your son's father is going to rise from the grave if your husband decides that he doesn't want to be the boy's dad. You're the only real mother this boy has, and what a sad state of affairs that is, because you've made it very clear that you don't even see him as family. You're the a-hole. A big stinking a-hole. Wow, the comments just ripped OP a new one there, didn't they? Hard to disagree with those arguments though. Let's go to the update. We definitely won't be going on vacation without Stepson. After a couple hours of replies, I decided to show this to my husband. We sat down and had a really long talk about it. He told me he's never been comfortable with my attitude to Stepson, but didn't know how to say it to me before. I don't want to be a bad person. I just never thought of stepchildren being yours. I don't think it would be easy for anyone to accept this level of criticism, but all your replies have shown me I have a lot of work to do. As many of you suggested, and so did my husband, I intend to see a therapist to help me with that. As I said, I don't hate Stepson in any way. I've never been deliberately cruel to him. I've just always thought of him as my husband's child, but I realise my mindset needs to change. So I'm going to start working on that. I want my family to be the best it can be, and I need to accept that it includes my stepson. I understand that now, and I'm going to start seeing a therapist to become a better person. We've also talked about maybe having family therapy too. I've also made up with my mum, and she is 100% behind the changes I want to make in my life. It wasn't easy to hear everything you said, but I understand that I needed to hear it. Okay folks, that's the end of that story. Good to hear that OP wasn't too headstrong about her opinions and is willing to get the help and do the work to become a better person. You don't see that too often these days. Let me know your thoughts about that one down below. Alright, let's go to the next story. Okay, this one was posted on the relationship advice subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account and it's titled, My girlfriend tricked me into breaking up with the one that got away 8 years ago. I have an opportunity to reconnect with him now. Should I? I knew Beau, 30 male, since we were both 11 years old. We both grew up in a small town, and our families were neighbours and became very close friends. We were the next door neighbours' best friends that started dating in our junior year of high school. He took me to prom, to homecoming dance, and we both picked a college that was in the state that had majors we were both interested in. Him, I, our families, friends, our preacher, everyone expected us to get married when we went off to college. The college we went to was 3 hours from our town, and it was close to a major city in our state, about half an hour from the big city, and it was a bit of a culture shock for the two of us. Beau had issues at first making new friends, but I sort of jived with the gals in class. My new friends didn't think much of Beau. They kept telling me I could do better than Beau. They thought Beau was slow-witted. He's not, he's just shy with new people. They thought he was too religious. He never was in their faces. He asked only once if they could recommend a church in the area. And they said Beau would just pull me back down to our small town, anchor me with children, and we'd both be stuck as hicks. It reached the boiling point on my 21st birthday. Two of my girlfriends came to me claiming they saw Beau cheating on me. They were stone-faced. They kept to their stories, and I foolishly believed them. I confronted Beau and started screaming at him. Beau didn't apologise. He didn't beg and plead. Instead, he got cold and mad. He said that he never trusted my friends, that they were playing me, and he thought I was better than this. I didn't believe him, and I let him walk away. He promised that if I took their word without even looking at them critically, that we were over, and he kept his word. From that day, he wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't acknowledge I existed. For the rest of college, he never dated anyone. He just worked, went to class, and graduated early. My friends, they set me up on a ton of dates. I had a bit of a wild college ride, something I'm a bit ashamed of now, honestly. Once I graduated, I tried to get established in life, but my college friends, they just kept wanting to hang out, chill, or party. It honestly got tiring, and I couldn't believe I had the energy to do this for nearly 4 years while getting an education. It was when I was 23 that one of the girls called me a stick in the mud and said something along the lines of, "I can't believe we went through the effort of breaking you up with Beau if you were just going to become a wallflower." I couldn't believe it. She went into detail about how easy it was, and I felt disgusted. I didn't give Beau another thought after the breakup. I thought he was a cheater, and I told my family, who told his family, and it strained his relationship with his mum for many years. But after that point, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I told my family the truth about what happened with Beau. This apparently helped repair the relationship Beau had with his mother. Apparently Beau's mum liked me quite a bit, and she went out of her way to sabotage Beau's relationship with any girl he brought over to meet the parents. My mum said Beau's mum did it very discreetly, but after finding out the truth, Beau's mum came clean, and Beau nearly cut her out of his life. She apparently begged and pleaded, and was able to work from there. I have many unfinished drafts of emails to Beau, some saying I wish to catch up, others begging for forgiveness and pleading for him to come back to me, but any news I got on Beau after the blow-up with his mum has been sparse. Beau doesn't do social media, and I had no idea where he lived. I found out this year that Beau has been married for 3 years and has a 2-year-old son. He has moved back to our hometown, and I saw him at the grocery store when I went to visit my parents 2 weeks ago. He didn't see me, or at least I think he didn't, but there he was with his wife and child, and I instantly felt a swirl of emotions: jealousy, rage, regret, depression. Even now, seeing him with his full family, I still want to beg him for a chance, which makes me feel awful, but at the same time I feel like I should at least say my piece. I talked to my mum about it, and all she said was, "The chickens come home to roost, don't make trouble for Beau." I just know that if I can't talk to Beau one last time, I will regret it for the rest of my life. What do I do? Should I contact Beau? I mean, personally, I'd say leave it the hell alone. It's too far gone now. What do you guys reckon? What would you do? Let me know down below. Alright, let's look at some comments. Quote, "I found out this year that Beau has been married for 3 years and has a 2-year-old son." And that's where you need to leave it. Seriously, he's had people on both sides sabotaging his relationships for so long. Your friends, his mum, and at this point your desire to seek another go with him will be more of the same. He's married, he's settled, he has a family. While crap happened, there's no undoing it, and at this point you must deal. I have an opportunity to reconnect. How do you figure? Because I don't think that you do. Beau's mum is terrible, your friends were terrible, you were terrible, leave him alone. Say for the sake of argument you do convince Beau to meet up with you and hear you out. What exactly do you think saying your piece will accomplish? Do you honestly think he's going to leave his family for the woman who would probably still be taking her social cues from her mean girlfriends if they hadn't spilled the beans on themselves? Do you think you're even going to bring him closure by admitting you effed up when he's known that from the second he walked out the door? Do you enjoy playing the character in the rom-com everyone wants to see get her comeuppance and then get off the screen so the hero can have his happily ever after with the person he deserves? Or do you not feel like you've gotten a big enough helping of karma yet? If not, then let Beau live the life he's fought so hard to earn in peace, and figure out a plan for yours that doesn't involve him. OP makes an edit. I emailed Beau last night. I'll put the content here. Hi Beau, it's me, Amy. I know it's been years since we talked, and I wanted to apologise for how we broke up. I also want to apologise for how it spread back to our families. I know now that Tracy and Stephanie were hell-bent on breaking us up any way they could, and I can't begin to apologise for the hurt it has caused you. I'll be back in town in a few weeks and was wondering if we could have a coffee and catch up. I want to know what's been going on with you in your life. This morning, I got a reply from Bo. Amy, I want you to know that I've forgiven you years ago. I hope you're doing well, but I would have to say no to coffee or catching up. My wife and I have a strict rule that neither of us hang out with exes. I hope you understand. I tried emailing him to say he could for sure bring his wife with him, but he's not replied since. I guess you were right. There was no chance to reconnect. Okay, now Bo actually makes a post and Reddit connects the dots. It's titled, My younger sister wants me to give an old ex closure. I'm married and don't see how this will do any good. Why is my sister insistent on this? Posted elsewhere but was told to post here instead since it involves familiar relationships. Lurker posted on a throwaway. When I was young, I had a girlfriend that was my best friend long before we dated. We had a breakup midway through college where she said some vile things to me. It was hard, but I made it a choice to walk away. I became the butt end of the joke after the breakup, and honestly the mocking and teasing I got from other students in college was enough that I fast-tracked my way to a degree, much to the detriment to my health. Seeing how she moved on quickly made me question our childhood friendship too, so there was that. It took a few years and I moved on with my life. I got married just a few years ago and have a son. About a month ago, my ex emailed me with an apology over the breakup and asking if we could catch up. I thanked her for the apology, but said that I think meeting up is not a good idea. Since then, she's been emailing me every few days. Both our families are friends, and my younger sister has been pressuring me to give my ex a face-to-face for closure. No one else in my family is so insistent. My sister, when we were younger, looked up to my ex as an older sister, but last I heard it's been years since they talked. One thing is for sure, I don't want to talk to my ex, but I also want to keep my relationship with my sister. How do you suggest I navigate my relationship with my sister? Edit to add, my wife saw every email as they came in. Nothing was hidden from her. I blocked the ex this morning, and my wife is a little bummed out because she was enjoying reading my ex's emails and how strange they were. I shared the thread with my sister. No response yet. And someone found a thread on Reddit that has a lot of similar details to my ex. I'm 50-50 if it's her, but it reads way too unhinged to the woman I once knew. Plus, some details are off, but some Redditors think it was for plausible deniability. The poster messaged me, and it might be her. I can't imagine she's this unhinged. Geez, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Alright, let's go to Bo's second edit, a day later. My sister read the thread and read the other post that I'm still 50-50 being the ex. It feels too unhinged, which is what makes me not sure, plus some of the details. First off, my sister said she's cut my ex off. She thought that a final conversation was good etiquette with old friends, even if they chose to not be friends. After reading the other post, which my sister is also 50-50 on, she said, even if it's not her, it's close enough that I'm effed. She never really understood my pain from that situation, since I was pretty bottled up about it while it was happening. I didn't set ultimatums to cut off family members back then, and maybe I should have. Might have saved some pain. I did get apologies as well. We're good now. The other Redditor. To clarify, I blocked the woman that posted the other thread, since she seemed unhinged, even if she was or wasn't the ex. The details seemed off too. The details. Our hometown isn't a major metropolitan area, but I wouldn't say we were hicks or rednecks. We certainly didn't grow up in the boonies. We grew up in the suburbs. If anything, I think the college was in a town that technically had a smaller population than our hometown. Yes, I do go to church, but I never mention it since religion could be a hot-button topic to people you've just met, and even back then there was Google. I wouldn't ask where a church was in a new town. Both emails she posted, the gist is the same, but the formatting is different. The breakup. I didn't like my ex's college friends, that is true, but the confrontation was not me being some stone-faced Terminator. I was angry crying throughout it, and it was emotionally draining. She first said she heard I was making out with some girl. I asked when and with who. She said she didn't know. I asked who saw it. She said, wouldn't you like to know? Any attempt to say where I was when this happened was her claiming I was gaslighting her. It was exhausting. I said something like I didn't like who college was turning her into, and we both shouted we were done. More or less. It was almost a decade ago, and like I said, it was emotionally exhausting. She immediately was seen with this other dude who seemed to enjoy humiliating me. Rumours spread about either or both of us cheating, and the other dude even said that I watched once, which was humiliating. He one time even put his hand on my shoulder, all buddy-buddy, going, "No hard feelings." I was living in the dorms. My parents put money on a food plan at the dining hall, so I had to stay on campus when I wasn't working. I signed up for extra courses whenever I could, and fast-tracked my way to a degree to get out of hell. My family. My mother did take my ex's side. I don't know what type of stories she got, and she never confronted me about it. I did get disapproving looks at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she never approved of any girl I brought over for a while either. My mum did call me a few years ago apologising for not even asking my side of the story, and said that my ex was dead to her, so that part of the other post kind of lines up. My mother has made considerable amounts of effort to fix our relationship. She's very welcoming to my wife and child. She doesn't even utter the name of my ex in the house. We're not at 100%, but she's making the effort. My wife saw every email from the ex. Nothing was ever hidden from her. My wife and I were both 100% against going to meet the ex, together or separate. She was enjoying reading the ex's emails, but understood when the fun had to stop. So for now, I think this is a happy ending. Would I be the a-hole for not having my cancer-stricken ex-husband stay with me through his treatment? For most of our marriage, my husband, 39 male, and I, 37 female, had a very happy relationship. We had good jobs, decent money, 2 kids, and loved each other. Then he got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and we went through years of painful treatments and recovery together. We moved to a small house to be close to the research centre where he underwent treatment. His parents paid half of the down payment on the house, the other half was from our savings and investments. In the divorce, he gave me the house and took all of his medical debt. We've been divorced a year, but now his cancer has come back and he needs treatment again at the same research hospital. He wants to stay in what is now my house while undergoing treatment, and his parents expect me to house him and look after him because he was generous in letting me have the house without taking his rightful share from the equity. When we were married and he was undergoing treatment, it was new stuff that was expensive and also very physically draining on him. We were lucky that both our jobs were supportive and flexible, but with his health issues, little kids and expenses, we had to downgrade our lifestyle a lot. That, plus the physical changes in his body, made him very depressed. Whenever he felt a bit better, he'd go to stay in his hometown. It's a small town where most of his family and a lot of his childhood friends live. I was doing all the caretaking of him, while also dealing with insurance complications. I was also managing the kids, the entire household, and my full-time job. We had help from friends and neighbours, but it was very hard. I wasn't happy about him spending his healthy days away from us, but it was good for his mental health, so I didn't feel like I could object. While he was staying there, he had reconnected with his high school girlfriend. A couple years ago, he admitted to me that he was sleeping with her, and I filed for divorce. He had fully recovered from his cancer by then. There are other aspects about the cheating that left me very heartbroken and feeling betrayed. His giving me the house and taking all the debt was an apology of a sort. His parents feel that I owe him for getting the house and should let him stay there for the 2 to 3 months his treatment is at the facility. I do want him to be well, and I don't want my kids to lose a loving father, but I can't deal with having him around me, especially not if I end up being his nurse and caretaker again. I'm still very bitter about how our marriage ended. A lot of people close to me are telling me that I should support him for the sake of my kids. Would I be the a-hole if I say I can't do that? Gee, sounds like Opie's being taken advantage of a little bit here. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, and for anyone saying you owe him, you paid your debt in full by taking care of him and then by not raking him over the coals in the divorce when he cheated. You owe him nothing. Not the a-hole. You received the house as part of your divorce settlement. You could have gotten his retirement accounts or something similar instead of the house, if there were such assets to be had. Stop thinking of the house as being given to you. It was awarded to you as part of the divorce settlement, not given to you as prepayment for future caregiving. But you getting assets from the divorce don't entitle your cheating ex to free housing, utilities, food and caregiving. Your ex and his affair partner can find their own housing near a cancer centre. If it's important to his parents that your ex get care and housing, they can figure out how to help provide that. He's your ex, which means that it's no longer your responsibility. While I empathise with ex's plight, I won't be housing nor providing care for him. Due to the circumstances of our divorce, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to provide those services. At this time, ex needs the support of his family and close friends more than ever, and I'm no longer either of those. I hope that ex recovers from his illness quickly, and I'll be praying for him. OP goes on a bit more in the comments. They announced their engagement the day the divorce was finalised. That still hurts so much. I'm struggling with this so much. I don't think I hate him. A part of me still loves him as an old friend. I definitely wouldn't want my kids to suffer the devastation of losing their father. He loves them and is loved by them. When I look at it as an outside observer, I can understand what he was going through in falling in love with someone else. During the worst parts of his illness, I was frequently cleaning up after him, his vomiting, his loss of bowel control. I pulled muscles and injured myself helping him move. He found that emasculating, so I can see how he'd find it appealing that someone still saw him as the old him when he was healthy and strong, and I became the nurse figure. So I tell myself that, and I don't hate him. But I went years without sex because he was sick. The loss of libido was an expected temporary side effect of his medication. I accepted that and made do with being celibate. I feel guilty talking about how painful it was because I should be grateful he survived and that it's so trivial given the situation. But I would masturbate in hiding. Didn't even get a vibrator because I didn't want him to feel bad or awful for not being able to do it. And all this time I was making do thinking he wasn't able to. He was sleeping with a whole other person, and that disloyalty still makes me cry. Someone comments, even without the cheating and whatnot, caretaking is a full-time job and it's very taxing emotionally, mentally and physically. You're not his wife anymore. You have no obligation to do this. OP replies, the last time I did it out of love. I can just not do it now. It was very difficult. The big upside to me in getting divorced was not having to deal with that anymore. As difficult as it is to take care of a sick person, dealing with the insurance bureaucracy and keeping track of all the medical contacts and treatment details is a pretty big logistical nightmare. Someone comments, maybe for the sake of his children, you could allow him to stay there, but he and his parents pay for a nurse or aide to care for him. You are certainly not obligated to help him in any way, but your children are old enough to know he's ill, and if you choose not to help him, it will likely adversely impact your relationship with your kids. If not now, later, especially if something happens to him and he dies. If you don't help him, I fear they will blame you for not helping him by at least allowing him to stay there. OP replies, I hadn't started thinking on those terms yet, but yes, you are right. I have to measure how my kids will react to this. I haven't told them yet that he's sick again. They were very little back then and only knew that Dad was sick and got better. Now my oldest is big enough to understand cancer and what that means. My ex has been the fun Disney dad since we separated. They adore him. The chances of his parents being unaware that their son was sleeping with his high school girlfriend when he came home is 0. OP replies, oh, they knew and supported him. They were always good to me, so it wasn't like they wanted to break up my marriage, but they were in whatever makes him happy because he survived cancer. I think he received some side-eye for this from people who knew what we went through, and my ex-in-laws did damage control by making overly gushing social media posts about how the girlfriend always looked out for him and made him laugh when they were kids, and did it again when he was going through a hard time. As if her comedy skills are what cured his cancer. I was just the background maid, nanny and assistant character that can be ignored. Sorry, I'm still bitter and I keep regurgitating the same stuff. About the in-laws. They are my kids' grandparents, the only loving grandparents my kids have. They dote on my kids and drive hours to spend time with them and take them places. I resent them, but they are good grandparents. Okay, on to the update. The Sunday after I made the post to Am I the A-hole, my ex-in-laws picked up the kids for a zoo trip. They sometimes come to pick them up to entertain them, and so I thought nothing of it. A few hours later, a very teary and contrite mother-in-law dropped off 2 bawling kids with me. She told them their dad is sick and will die if he doesn't stay with us and go to the hospital. We hadn't had a talk with the kids yet about the diagnosis, and she dropped it on him that he is dying from cancer. He's not dying. It's a painful treatment, but he'll recover. I was so furious I was raging. I called the ex and tore him a new one. He was shocked too, and together we exploded at his mum. She broke down and cried, begging me to not take away her grandkids from her, as if I'd trust her after this. Ex and I together talked to the kids, him on video, and assured them that yes, he is sick, but he'll be fine. He just needs to go to the hospital and they'll make him better like the last time he was sick. The kids settled down after that, but my oldest has been at me crying and begging to make Dad come live with us. I promised them I'd talk to Dad and figure out what's the best thing to do. I swallowed a lot of bile to talk to him about why he was doing this. We had a pretty long and detailed discussion. The bottom line is that he's broke. He still has a decent job, but his credit is ruined. He has a lot of debt, and he stupidly got the cheapest insurance that barely covers anything. Fiancée has no help either. She's worse off financially, so he needs a place to stay. He can't afford this otherwise. His parents are funding some of his medical payments and are already stretched. He was financially alright when we broke up, so I have no idea what happened in such a short time. Anyway, X and his girlfriend moved into my daughter's room. My daughter happily gave it up to her dad and is sharing her little brother's room. Both kids are over the moon happy to have their dad in their home. My daughter keeps checking on him every few minutes to make sure he's still okay. Mother-in-law traumatized my kid. I'll never forgive that woman for this. I let the girlfriend move in with him because I was too angry to care about who came to look after him, as long as it wasn't me. I didn't know how I could bear having her in my home, but it appears to be more misery for her than me, and that strangely makes it more tolerable for me. She is teary-eyed and crying all the time. It's only been 3 days, but I'm so annoyed I want to shake her and tell her to pull it together. The current treatment plan is for 3 months. I'm counting down the days. I'm thankful for the many people who gave me great advice on my last post. I wasn't expecting things to go this way, but they played me by manipulating my kids. I'll slowly pull myself and the kids away and move, but for now, I have to deal with this for my kids' sake. Edit to add. I was trying to make this update more than a week ago, so to add to that, X's treatment is coming along nicely. The tumours that grew again are much smaller than before, and the new stuff that they're giving him is more directed too, so he's not having as many bad symptoms as he had last time. I'd promised myself I would do nothing to help, and I stayed away from both X and his fiancée, but I did end up helping him deal with insurance. His fiancée has the personality of a wet noodle and cries all the time. It was easier for me to do it than deal with her struggling. X is polite enough to me, but his personality has changed. He is a different person and not very nice towards his fiancée. I didn't expect to, but I felt sorry for her. Now more from the comments. Someone encourages OP to open up a can of Petty and gives a list of suggestions. Ask if the girlfriend can look after the kids for a day your ex doesn't have treatment, then go out on a date looking $1,000,000. If you don't date, they don't need to know that, just go out with girlfriends. If you do date, don't come home that night. OP replies, I've done this 2 times already. I haven't dated yet since the divorce. I want to, but online dating scares me, and my social life revolves around my kids. I'm pretending to have plans just so I'm dressed and out and feeling good about myself. I didn't leave the kids with them though. I managed to arrange sleepover for the kids with their friends on those nights. I've been amazed by how much love and support my kids and I are receiving from our neighbours and friends. I told a few close people what's going on, and I suppose most people know now. I've received a lot of offers for help. People can be kind. We got invited to a camping trip on Easter weekend, and I'm taking the kids to that. Ex-mother-in-law was making noises about having kids over, and I've shut that down. Someone says, you are a saint. Opie says, not a saint, no. I'm just trying to protect my kids and my sanity. I'm keeping myself very busy and staying on task. I'm working hard to avoid thinking things, because that way is misery. This is very petty of me, but I have to admit that seeing they are not doing well has been somewhat mollifying for me, emotionally. Might be worth looking into dating events that companies run. Might be a smoother way into the reintroduction to the dating world, when you're ready, than dating sites. I haven't done online dating, but a friend of mine just married her husband who she met at a dating baking class. Have a look at what's in your area. I need to look into dating events. I didn't know this was a thing. I need a detailed guide on how to do these things now. About selling the house. I've started looking into selling and I'm researching places to move to, but it's so very difficult. I don't have the budget to put the house on the market while I live elsewhere, especially if it takes longer than 2 months to sell. I also don't feel secure opening the house for showings while my kids and I live there. The other issue is that I don't have close family I can rely on, and here in this neighbourhood I've built up an awesome support system between neighbours and friends. Giving that up and starting somewhere new with 2 little kids in tow is daunting. I'm trying to evaluate which option is the bigger con. Someone says, is an alternative sitting down with your husband and kids to explain this is a one-time offer? After these 3 months are off, they need to start saving and planning for any future care. Opie replies, I talked to my ex about it before we moved here. He agreed never again. With my daughter though, I'm going to wait to have that conversation when she's not so freaked out about her dad's mortality. Another update to my post about my ex-husband staying with me. My ex and his fiancée moved out today. His treatments went very well this time around. He had to deal with general weakness and nausea, but no vomiting and voiding like the previous time. It's amazing how much medicine improves and changes. He'll need monthly shots for a while, and I agreed to house him for a weekend next month, but after that he's on his own. The stay went well. We had no drama really. I kept myself busy and kids and I travelled a lot. They both managed the rest of the stuff alright and things worked out. My kids are happy and back to their normal stuff. I had a talk with my daughter about how Grandma exaggerated things to get her way, and that is not okay, and she understood. She has shown no interest in visiting her grandparents, and I'm happy about that. The last week of his stay, his fiancée went back to their town to take care of some stuff, since he was doing pretty well on his own. He and I had a few long detailed conversations. They were cathartic in some ways, and saddening and maddening in others. I think I got some closure. At least I'm not feeling the bitterness the way I used to. I may make another post about what he told me, his reasoning and justifications. On another positive note, all that dressing up and going out I've been doing has worked out for me. I met someone. We've been on 2 dates and it's going great so far. This is my first time dating since the divorce, so I'm keeping my expectations muted, but still it's very exciting and fun. Okay, on to the last update. My conversation with my ex-husband. I tried writing about our conversations, but the process of thinking about it and analysing it is very depressing. When we had the talk, I felt much better than I do looking back at it now. Then my new date invited me on a trip during the Memorial Day weekend. One of my close neighbour friends encouraged me to go while she watched my kids. I was pretty excited about this vacation. My first adult-only vacation in over a decade. I didn't want my overthinking about my ex to make me depressed during the trip, so I put that on hold. The trip went well and I'm pretty optimistic about this new relationship. Sorry to you guys for taking so long for this, but now that I feel happier, I can have a more grounded take on my ex's views. To start with, he was again very apologetic about what he put me through and that I deserved better from him. When he was going through his cancer treatment while we were married, I was extra careful with his feelings and being calm and patient with him. That had become so much of a habit that even when he told me about his affair, I still treated him with kid gloves. I was firm about wanting a divorce and refused to consider his insistence on working it out, but I swallowed my anger and didn't go off at him. But this time I got to properly express my hurt and anger at him, and that was very, very cathartic. He took it okay for the most part, but also was stung by it and got defensive. He told me in some detail about how he and his girlfriend got together. She was his high school girlfriend. She came from an abusive background, and in high school, he had helped her and did a lot to encourage her to move out of that situation. When he moved away to go to university and she stayed in their small town, the long-distance thing dissolved their relationship. He wanted a more big city life, and a few years after college, he met me. When he was visiting his parents' home more while recovering, he reconnected with her. At that time, she was struggling to leave an abusive relationship. It again was like their high school days, where she was in trouble, and he was the knight in shining armour. I suppose that can be very attractive to someone who's been facing weakness in their own mortality. When he was home, I was waiting on him hand and foot. I didn't even know that he could have had enough energy to do all the legwork for this other woman, and was spending quite a bit to help her. That's where his currently being broke comes from. She was in financial trouble, and he solved all her problems. He's quite proud of how much he helped her, and doesn't agree with me that he took something away from me and making me work for him, while he put his energy away from our family. I don't want to say that I don't support helping someone escape abuse, but I can't help feeling exploited. His response was that he did a favour by spending time in his town because that lessened the burdens on me. It is true that when he went away, life got easier by a lot. I had more time, I could focus more on kids, we could cook anything, eat anything. But if he had that kind of energy then, he could have helped me, you know? But he says that I was always stressed out and upset. My attitude was a drain on him. I resent that because I remember how careful I was around him, how much I made myself pliable to be his nurse. He brought up examples of how once I was so upset I went to the balcony to scream. The time I snapped at the kids and then cried about it. He had stories of how I was pushy and difficult. He wasn't making it up. I have my faults, but I did work hard and tried my best. I didn't realize that my help and support wasn't good enough for him. I didn't make him feel good. I just did the crap work. I think he resents me because he feels he owes me. He likes his girlfriend because she owes him and is dependent on him. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that story. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Again, another cheating partner that feels like he has the ability and moral standpoint to justify his actions. I hear these stories all the time and they just baffle me. Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed that story. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!